Just a couple of points that were made. There are plans afoot to look at getting a waka for Aturangi Nepia for our area. One of the reasons Aturangi, when he came back, he joined Unga Mai, and that was one of the statements he made at that time, was to see his purpose in coming into Unga Mai. One of the main reasons was to get a waka here, having been part of the development of that waka fleet that you've seen on here. Sorry about the sound, just a few complications there. So it's my pleasure now to bring Aturangi up to the stage. And I'll just do this little profile. Te Atu's going to do the voyaging into the future of Ngāti Parawa, Rongo Whakaata and Kahimuniu descent. Te Aturangi is a traditional voyager and captain, canoe builder and senior calmer. He's also sailed on the tall ships. He took on the Endeavour when it sailed out of here. Te Aturangi has been involved in voyaging since 1978. Made his first international voyage on Te Aurere from Aotearoa to Rarotonga. The realisation of a desire he had to travel back to the spiritual homeland of the ancestors, and the way the ancestors are right here in Aotearoa. Since then he has been involved in a number of significant voyaging canoe projects and voyages. Most recently he managed the construction of the 7 voyaging canoes that are part of the Pacific Voyages program. Ladies and gentlemen, Te Aturangi.
Technology.
Kia ora koutou, e te mihi nui kia koutou, mo tō koutou ai mai e tēnei ai mo te kōrero mo tō tauranga, mo nā kōrero o nā tūpuna ko rei te pō, o te manu nui a kiwa. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Tēnā koe Jacko, me Hokiroa, me Joan, me mo tō koutou tautoko, mo te kaupapa nei. No reira, kia ora koutou. Me Richardson, mo tō kōrero o Horota. No reira, kia ora koutou. So, being the last speaker, oftentimes you're sort of left with nothing to say. My friends that have gone before me have said a lot, and maybe I'll touch on some of those subjects, but part of the thing that I'm touching on with my presentation is the transit of Venus, which of course we all know that we celebrated this week. This is a canoe prow that I carved many years ago, many years ago I suppose, it makes me sound old. I carved in 1990, but the inspiration for this canoe prow actually came when I was just a young lad, being brought up in a small town called Bulls. And in that small sort of farming rural town, I couldn't believe it, but we actually celebrated the arrival of Captain Cook in 1969. And in celebrating the arrival of Captain Cook, I've been taught at school, and Jacko alluded to this when he was talking, that our ancestors were accidental voyagers, that they drifted across the ocean, that they had absolutely no way of knowing that there was land there, and they just drifted until they actually bumped into land. And after hearing that at school, I'd go home, and Mum would teach us our pepeha, where we came from, what canoe we belonged to, and how great our ancestors were at voyaging. So I was in a real dilemma. But the seed was planted in me way back then, and I decided that with the skills that I sort of developed over the years, I was going to try and do something to raise the profile of our ancestors, our voyaging ancestors. And this canoe prow, the image of it was given to me in a dream. And it actually took me 7 years to actually get the finance together, to get the wherewithal to actually make this project happen. And this project happened because of a lot of people. A lot of people lending their support, a lot of people believing, and a lot of people entering into a partnership to make a statement. So, voyaging into the future. As you've seen tonight, we can't voyage into the future without looking back. We have to look back from where we've come from in order to look forward to realise what we've actually done. And that's something that our other speakers have been talking about this evening also. This is the Cook Island canoe, Te Tonga. On its first maiden voyage, the picture was taken from an aircraft. Ewan Smith from the Cook Islands actually took this on an Airaro plane, and it's looking down on Te Tonga after we launched her and sailed her for the very first time. And you can see the streak behind her, how she's making beautiful way through the water. And this was really an experiment with Sir Thomas Davis. Sir Thomas Davis put together this canoe using traditional concepts in terms of the design, but actually using boat building techniques. So the boat building techniques were the same as what Huturu talked about in terms of the way that he built his little one, which is based on the same designs and the same model as the Te Pairua. And I'll just draw your attention to the Te Pairua over here, and of course the Endeavour too. And you can see that there's quite a stark difference in the design concepts between the two cultures that made these sailing vessels. So from Stone Age knowledge, I'll just go quickly through this, just so that you have an appreciation of what the ancestors actually had to do. So it's not like you go down to Mitre 10 or down to Bunnings and you say, oh, I'll have a load of those, the 2x4s, and I'll have this and that. This is how the ancestors had to build their canoes, using Stone Age tools. Felling the tree, rolling the tree into a position where the heaviest part of the log would actually go to the bottom, because that would become the keel. If you ended up with the heaviest part of the log on top, well, you're in big trouble. And how they figured that out was that the heaviest part of the tree would be the part of the tree that was faced away from the sun most of its life. Edging the interior of the canoe out once the outside is shaped, and then using the fire to actually heat up the log. And as you heat up the log splits, drive wedges in, and then eventually those wedges will come right out, and that became the planks to actually build the canoes up. Bit of joinery going on there. Fantastic joinery actually, when you consider that they had to lay these planks on top of each other and then lash them all together and make them watertight, because they had to undergo 2,000-3,000 mile voyages. So for that Stone Age technology to be used in such a scientific way by our ancestors was something like really quite fantastic. They used to use breadfruit sap down the joints, and they would lace that with the sennet from the coconut husk. Sennet from the coconut husk, they'd tease it out and then lay that down the joint, and then put the breadfruit sap in order to seal that particular joint. The coconut sennet that you see on the right hand side, you know how big a coconut is, it's about that big. They used to take the outside off and then tease all the husk out and then make rope out of that. And they had to make virtually kilometres of rope. So, very industrious people, our ancestors. Various tools have been used, and the construction technique. You can see all the planking going on there, and the shaping too. The science in itself. I've got Herb Carnett to thank for these wonderful images that he researched and then manufactured, painted, and some of the Stone Age tools that we used. So from a historical perspective, the voyaging canoes, they settled Aotearoa. You can see them all there. The Tahitian pahi, which is this one here, was the precursor to the Tipairua. And the Tipairua, I think, was built in that particular fashion. It was built because it goes better downwind rather than having the rolling bottom. The Tipairua actually has a rocker on the bottom, but it's worked out mathematically, as is the shape of the hull, to make it slice through the water. And so, so I believe that out of most of these canoes, I mean, down the bottom there you see the alia with the big triangular sail. The alia, kalia in Tonga, alia from Samoa, and endure from Fiji. That was the canoe that Jacko was talking about, where they used to shunt. So all of these canoes were made for the specific reason of voyaging, obviously, but they were made for the conditions. And the Tipairua was made in this particular fashion, with two masts the same size, with the high back and the rocker and the bowsprits coming out the front, because it was used for downwind sailing. So downwind sailing, anybody who's in the yachting world will know that that's a schooner, and the schooners are actually built with masts the same height also. So the ancestors were doing this thousands of years ago. This is a line drawing of the latest canoes that were built, the Pacific voyaging canoes that Hotugora and Jacko have been talking about. And we've added a centreboard and a couple of other things too to help us keep a better track when we're voyaging. And here we have, by the courtesy of Ron, just over here, Jane's husband, the line drawing from the Endeavour. And I just want to draw your attention to this, because you can see, and if you take time to actually have a look at the Endeavour afterwards, when Tupaia was talking about just plugging along, he was right. Because I sailed from New Zealand to Australia on the Endeavour, and honestly it's like sailing in a bathtub. And I'm not being rude, I'm not being critical, but I'm just telling you from my experience, because the bow section is the front. To be honest, it will go faster backwards than it goes forwards. But I'm not being funny, but this particular design was designed this way because of the two reasons that these two vessels were able to sail quite significantly close to land, and that's because they have a very shallow draft. So it was clever in respect of having a shallow draft, because they were going into uncharted waters. And going into uncharted waters is you need to have a vessel that you have confidence in that you aren't going to run aground, although they did run aground. So I had the pleasure of sailing on the Endeavour, and a lot of my mates said to me, "What do you want to sail on that for?" Well, my father's English, I'm Māori, my mother's Māori. I'm not going to deny part of myself. I'm going to find out the true story of both vessels and then figure it out for myself. And you can see from these two models here that were kindly loaned by Eastland Tourism that the sleekness of the canoe, and Captain Cook noted it in his journals, these canoes used to sail circles around him, checking him out as the Endeavour was plugging along. He couldn't believe it, and it's written in his journals, so it's fact. You come across that, Jane? Yeah. This is the an Alia type vessel that Sir Thomas Davis built, and of course the old Tonga that you've just seen. Okay. The new millennium. New beginnings, full of promise. New innovations, making our sail plans for new, exciting voyages. So in the picture here, you'll see a project that I had the good fortune to manage in building up to the year 2000. And Jacko, Hoturo, and many other voyagers came along to support support the vision of having our voyaging canoes, our paddling canoes, our wakatawa, our wakarama, and we even brought some people down from the Marshall Islands, just to have that image sailing out of the sunrise. Now that image sailing out of the sunrise is really special because what it does is it actually encourages us. It encourages us to look for new beginnings. We look towards the horizon. It encourages us. It makes us look beyond ourselves. And so now I'm getting into step with what my talk is actually about, voyaging into the future. Voyaging into the future to me is sharing a vision of where we're at now and where we see ourselves being in the future. So here we go, the transit of Venus this week allowed us an opportunity as a nation, as an international community, to look skywards, to the heavens, to dream of our future. Isn't that beautiful? It's just fantastic. So in acknowledging that, I say congratulations to our Luawa whānau, the dreamers, the designers who successfully did this, Transit of Venus 2012, a resounding success, a shared vision, collective dream combining history, tradition, culture, science. There you go. It just goes on. So we talk about a shared vision. I talk about the shared vision of Tupaia and Cook. I believe they shared a vision to help each other. Tupaia could help Cook because Tupaia was a master navigator and he knew all of the little atolls and islands throughout the Pacific as the Endeavour made its way down to Aotearoa. So he was able to help in that respect, and of course had a bit of an experience at the same time. Whether it was a nice experience or a bad experience, I can't say, but Jones' book seems to allude to it not being so nice. At the end of the day, that's what we say, the rest is history. So, here we have Aotearoa Tahi on its first voyage after they arrived down here on Sunday. And I just went up the hill just to draw that comparison, to talk about that vision that Cook and Tupaia had, to recognise both sides of our culture that we have here in Aotearoa, and of course many other cultures, but the founding cultures that belong here. So, simple statement. So I'm talking about dreaming now, I'm talking about visions, I'm talking about what can we do? There's an opportunity right here, right now to enter that collective dream, a collective vision that we can work together. We in this room won't be around in 105 years, but that shouldn't stop us from dreaming and planning, ensure that future generations spiritually, culturally, intellectually, socially, and financially secure. Well, that's a bit small, isn't it? You might got some glasses I can grab. So, the collective vision. Collective vision for Te Tairāwhiti. So, as a trustee of Te Unga Mai, I can answer that in part. We've celebrated the commemoration of the arrival since the inception of Te Unga Mai. We've done that through interfaith gatherings, annual public forums, music festivals, and education programs. This year, with the help of Te Puni Kokiri, we have celebrated the transit of Venus. The shot of our waka out there on the bay. Now, can you imagine that bay full of vessels in the future? 2019. That's where we're heading. We're heading to 2019, 250 years, a timestamp on our history, a timestamp where we take our place in history. Yes, we can say that the Treaty of Waitangi was signed in 1840, the 6th of February. We celebrate that each year. But the true meeting of two cultures happened here. And it's time for us to stand up and take our place. And by the way, I hate that name, Poppy Bay. Personally, I hate it. I don't think that it's Poverty Bay. I think it's full of richness and goodness. It would be wonderful in 2019 if we could change that. So, voyaging into the future. Now is our opportunity to share the vision, the dream for our future, to plan the celebrations of 2019, to secure a flagship, to champion that kaupapa, that cause. How on earth can we invite people from around the world to come and join us in a great big voyaging festival when we don't have our own voyaging canoe? It just can't be done. So that's what we need to focus on, I believe. That's what we will be focusing on with Dungamai. Well, I support voyaging today. All of the things that you've heard Jacko talk about, that you've heard Hoturo talk about, that you've seen the younger generations coming through. His son, how old was he? 9?
Yep.
9, bro. Yeah, 9 and then 15. And I sailed with him on that voyage when he was 15. And he's a wonderful young man. And when we look at us older ones, not that old, eh, bro? Us older ones who have been in this game for a long time, you know, we do look to the young ones because this is something that we've invested 20, 30 years more in this kaupapa. And we look for the young ones to carry it on. So it's a responsibility thing. It's a responsibility of us as the elders who have gained this knowledge to pass it on to the young ones, for them in turn to pass it on in their due time. To make sure that we actually have this knowledge, that we have these things that are so important to us for the future generations. So I talk about an educational platform using the waka as a classroom. That's what the Hawaiians have done for years. They started this concept, and we're just following in their wake. But we're following in their wake in our own ways, in our own time. Very exciting times that we're living in. So, I'm talking about our Tairafi waka, will be our flagship, made from sustainable materials. Well, what does that mean? Sustainable materials. When we used to build a waka, as you saw earlier, we had to cut down a tree, we had to cut down several trees. We don't have those trees anymore. So sustainable materials, things like fiberglass, and that's what we built the latest fleet of canoes out of. Fiberglass hulls, and these fiberglass hulls, they are expensive, but they will last 100 years. They will last 100 years because they're low maintenance and they're so strong. They're made from sealed cell core inner with fiberglass on the outside, and they are absolutely fantastic. So sustainable materials, sustainable energy also. The canoes that we're sailing with, and this is one of them, and we can thank Mr. Dieter Pullman for his vision. Dieter is the person who sponsored the building of and the voyage of these particular canoes, the Pacific Voyaging Fleet. But you can see the solar panel on the back there, on the aft. That's the aft over there, by the way. And you can see that platform on the back. That's a platform with solar panels, and they feed a battery, batteries that are housed midships in the canoe. And the batteries are connected to what we call electric pods. Midships, we can lift up part of the deck, and there's these electric pods. They look like something out of space age, honestly. They look like a submarine aft with the thing spinning, the propeller spinning. But these pods, they drop down into the ocean, and that allows us to get classification A for sailing, because you need to have motorised power to be able to get in and out of ports when you're sailing internationally. Without that, you will never get blue water sailing classification A. So very clever design, very clever thought. So basically, what it's doing is it's doing well for use for the need of fossil fuels. And we all know that we're running out of fossil fuels because the petrol and diesel prices are sky high. And that happens when you're running out. So we're basically sailing like the ancestors sailed, just using the wind and the sun in order to make our way. So, and then over the last 6 weeks, we've been running an education program as a trial, and we hope that the pilot will soon be accepted into the National Education Forum curriculum, I should say. So the program presently has focused on our beginnings, traditional canoe building, migration, traditional celestial navigation, life on board. And the sixth week of that particular program culminated with the students, teachers and parents going out for a sail on Aotearoa 1. So the first three sessions, I carried them out, and then talking to the kids are so wonderful. They're just fantastic. They just suck everything in. They just absorb everything. They're like sponges, and they're so excited about everything. And then, so that was for the first 3 weeks. So the book built them up to the stage where they knew they were going on a voyage. They knew all about being on board, but they didn't know what to do on board. They just knew how the crew was selected, how the people were selected. And then Jacko came over and supported us. Kia ora, bro. And Jacko forgot his stick. Like he said, oh, brought a stick, that was the wrong one. Great. Jacko used his initiative like he did tonight and told a wonderful story tonight, but on the day he did a fantastic thing with the kids. He took them outside and out of the classroom and got them into a group activity. And that group activity was a star compass. So there he is instructing them with the teacher keeping a sharp eye on everybody, explaining what the star compass is all about, dividing them up into the star compass, and then running an activity, and these kids just loved it. Talking about the rising, the declination of the sun and the moon, the various stars and where they actually go in relation to the star compass, and getting them to think. Okay, if the sun's rising here, where's it going to set over there? And it was just a great activity. Session 5, led by Huturo, life on board, and he talked about, the examples of his son. And these kids are that age. They're 9, 10. So they can look to Huturo's son, and they know that they can do this. And now having experience going out on the waka, what a wonderful experience for them, for the young minds and for the young careers, to be able to extend themselves. Kia ora, bro. And the kids are just fascinated. They get it, as you can see, they get posed the question and they get into their little groups and they discuss it and come up with the answers, and it's just fantastic. David, thank you so much for allowing us to run this program. It really has been a fantastic experience for all of us. And this has been done through Unga. So you've seen a lot of these, I'll just go back a bit, because I want to acknowledge the crew from Aotearoa Tahi, Aotearoa 1. And as you can see, all of the crew up there, the crew who have helped us out this week by preparing the canoe. This started with a conversation as soon as we were talking about Unga running this program. I got on the phone and rang up Huturo. There wasn't a moment of hesitation. Yeah, bro, we'll come down. Thank you, brother, for that. It's a huge help, because we've had over 300 people on the canoe just this week. And that's made up of all ages. So it's really been a fantastic experience, but I just want a round of applause for the crew, please. Thank you very much. There's no sad faces there. And so this is the vision for the future. The vision for the future is for 2019, for that bay to be full. That bay to be full of canoes, that bay to be full of tall ships, that bay to be full of canoes, however you propel them, and that bay to be full of cruise ships too. And why shouldn't we dream like that? why shouldn't we say, let's make something special of this? There's absolutely no reason why we can't. So, we've talked about the benefits of voyaging, self-awareness, cultural awareness, a vehicle to transport our people's dreams. We talked about that with the present voyaging that's going on, our aspirations for a clean, green, blue planet, and to tell people about this. Keeping ancient skills alive, but not only that, it enhances our social and cultural empowerment. It allows us to teach our young ones employable skills. There are so many strands to this. So just labouring the point here. So in summary, exciting new initiatives, 250 years since the arrival in the Endeavour, an opportunity to celebrate voyaging, exciting education initiatives. So now we're like the question and answer that Paul Home does. So the question, how do we share this vision? We invest our knowledge, passion, dreams for a sustainable environment, renewable energy. We invest in education for our youth. We invest money. Nothing happens without it. And we invest people's interests. So there's a final statement. So winding up, we had the backdrop of the Horota, our humble beginnings. We had the story of Tupaia and Cook. We've had Jacko talking some wonderful stories about the voyages that he's been on, and that the fact that we're very proud of Jacko. He's become a PO navigator, which is the highest level of navigation. And so we have Jacko here to assist us when he can. Remember, bring his rifle. And he's talking about Mole. I had the pleasure of sailing with Mole and Jacko up to Rarotonga on the first voyage from here in 700 years. And for that I thank Hector Busby, Hector Nukumai, our kaumatua, for the opportunity. And just like to tell a little story with my experience with Mole. He was just such a solid person, just a wonderful person. You have to remember that he came from a place called Satawa. And Satawa is just so hot. And we were sailing in September from New Zealand waters, which is terribly cold. And because Mole was normally in a hot climate, we said to him, "Oh, we'll give you 2 sleeping bags instead of 1. Oh, okay. So we gave him 2 sleeping bags, and off he went into his little cover. And about 7 days into the voyage, we could see everybody bringing their sleeping bags out and drying them out, and because they got quite wet because we're in really rough seas and big waves, 60-foot waves, huge. And after about a week, Mole said to me, "Yes, Mole. Those things, sleeping bags, yes, Mole. Where do you get those?" He didn't know how to take it out of the cover. Bless his heart, he thought that we gave him 2 pillows. And he just quietly said to me on the side, I said, "But Mole, you've got 2. No, 2. I said, "Yes, Mole, you've got 2. You've got 2 sleeping bags to keep you warm." "No." I look into his sleeping quarters, here they are. He's using them as a pillow, and my heart was out. Good thing about it was they were still dry. There was nobody else. Here we have Te Aotonga again. So the new generation waka, motors sustainable energy. There's Te Matoa Maui in Tonga with the traditional sails on when we're sailing over there. So just acknowledgements to the people who have, some of the people that have made these things happen for us, to take us to new barriers, to new frontiers, and to look towards the future, and to think to ourselves, we can do this. we can get a canoe. I was so happy to hear everybody clap when we made the announcement that we're looking at getting a waka here for the Tairāwhiti. I can tell you that I've managed to secure 20% of the resources in order to make that happen. So we're just looking for the other 80%. So just in closing, I'd like to thank you all very much for your time this evening. Kia ora.